Hey guys, what's up? It's Red, and we are currently in Banned Books Week. This is a week entirely dedicated to discussing banned and challenged books, as well as the overall topic of book censorship. So I thought in honor of this week, I would list for you guys my top favorite challenged books. The first one on my list is going to be no surprise to anyone and is going to be one of the most obvious choices that I can possibly think of, and that is the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. The series as a whole, as well as books individually, have been challenged for going on 20 years now. And it's not even for the reason that you would think, because there are violent scenes in these books. It is for glorifying the occult. Pretty much it's been challenged repeatedly as running antithetical to religious context. The second one I have on my list is The Faulkner Stars by John Green. Now, John Green is absolutely no stranger to having his books repeatedly challenged, including Looking for Alaska and Paper Towns. The Faulkner Stars, no exception. The mother who challenged this book challenged it on the grounds that it had a morbid plot, crude language, and sexual content. And although technically those things are correct, it is a book that deals with death and dying, particularly young people who are dying. And as far as the sexual content and the crude language, I would say that the crude language is kept to a pretty minimum. And the sexual content is barely there. There was one fade to black moment where it's implied but not even explicitly stated. Personally, I feel like the grounds for challenging it were pretty stretched in my opinion, and I won't get full into the reasons that I disagree with its challenging, but it does stand on my list as one of my favorites that has been repeatedly challenged. The next one I have on my list is actually a children's book, and that is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark by Alvin Schwartz. This has been challenged based on having no moral, scaring children, and making light of death. But it is a book entitled Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I read this book as a kid and I loved it. I loved reading this book as a child. Personally, it didn't scare me, and I'm not about to judge any children who may be scared of it. I can definitely see how the stories could be scary. I just personally don't find something scary as necessarily being a good enough grounds to have something banned completely. The next book I have on my list is Girl Interrupted by Susanna Kaysen. For those of you who have not read the book, you may also be familiar with the very loosely adapted film starring Angelina Jolie and Winona Ryder. I love the film and I love the book, but they are very different from one another. Girl Interrupted is a somewhat autobiographical account of Susanna Kaysen's time in a mental institution when she was dealing with her own mental health challenges. That's also the reason I particularly love this book, because it feels like a very raw and down-to-earth account of a young woman's struggles with mental health, which is very relatable to a lot of its readers. There is some sexual content in the book, as well as a few mildly disturbing scenes. However, it's such an important book in my opinion, and a lot of books deal with very dark but very realistic content, and this book is no exception. So the last book I have on my list is The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, in other words, Anne Frank's diary. This one I was actually a bit surprised, just because I've seen it on school shelves for as long as I can remember. The reason that this book was challenged was not because it dealt with Nazi violence or these corrupt politics or any of the reasons you would traditionally think. It's actually because there is a brief excerpt of her exploring her body and describing her questions and her feelings about exploring this maturing body. She's a 13-year-old girl who's curious. This excerpt is not done in a sexual context. This is a 13-year-old girl that's questioning her growing body and her maturity and all the changes that come with it. It's very relatable to girls who are going through puberty and women that are curious about their own bodies. But of course, that was also why it was challenged. So if any of you have any favorites that have been banned or challenged over the years, please list them in the comments below. I am always looking to expand my reading, especially on this topic, because it's my own little way of sort of sticking it to the book censorship system. All right, that is it for this video, and I will talk to you guys later.